Self-serving bias. Self-serving bias is a psychological tendency in which people attribute their successes to their own abilities, efforts, and intelligence, while blaming their failures on external factors such as bad luck, unfair situations, or the actions of other people. It is a very common way of thinking that helps individuals protect their self-esteem and maintain a positive image of themselves. While this bias can sometimes be helpful for emotional well-being, it can also lead to distorted thinking and poor decision-making if it is not properly understood. The concept of self-serving bias is closely related to attribution theory, which explains how people interpret events and assign causes to them. One of the early contributors to this area was Fritz Heider, who suggested that individuals naturally try to understand why things happen by linking outcomes either to internal factors, such as personal effort, or external factors, such as circumstances. Self-serving bias occurs when this process becomes unbalanced, with people consistently favoring explanations that protect their own self-image. When something good happens, they believe it is because of their own qualities, but when something goes wrong, they look for reasons outside themselves. A clear example of self-serving bias can be seen in everyday life, especially in education. If a student performs well on an examination, they are likely to say that they studied hard or that they are intelligent. However, if the same student performs poorly, they may blame the difficulty of the exam, poor teaching, or lack of time. In both situations, the explanation is shaped in a way that protects the student's sense of ability. This pattern is not limited to students. It appears in workplaces, families, friendships, and even in how people view their own health and lifestyle choices. One important reason why self-serving bias exists is the human need for self-protection. People generally want to feel capable, worthy, and in control of their lives. Accepting full responsibility for failure can threaten these feelings and create discomfort or anxiety. As a result, the mind unconsciously shifts blame to external factors. This process often happens automatically, without deliberate intention, which makes it difficult for individuals to recognize their own bias. Self-serving bias also plays a significant role in motivation. When people attribute their successes to their own efforts, they feel encouraged to continue working hard and pursuing their goals. This can be beneficial because it increases confidence and persistence. However, the downside is that when failures are always blamed on external factors, individuals may fail to learn from their mistakes. For example, an employee who consistently blames poor results on the work environment may never improve their own skills or strategies. Over time, this can limit personal growth and reduce effectiveness. In professional settings, self-serving bias can influence decision-making and leadership. Managers who take credit for success but blame their team for failures can create a negative work environment. This reduces trust and discourages collaboration. On the other hand, leaders who are willing to share credit and accept responsibility for mistakes are more likely to build strong and motivated teams. Organizations that encourage accountability and honest reflection are better equipped to learn from experience and improve over time. Relationships are another area where self-serving bias has a strong impact. During conflicts, individuals often see themselves as reasonable and blame the other person for problems. For example, one partner may believe that they are always supportive, while the other is difficult or uncooperative. This one-sided thinking can prevent effective communication and make it harder to resolve disagreements. Healthy relationships require individuals to consider their own role in conflicts and to understand the perspective of others. Self-serving bias is also visible in group and social behavior. Groups often take credit for their successes while blaming failures on external factors such as competition or unfair treatment. This can strengthen group identity but may also lead to misunderstandings or prejudice. For example, a team may believe that it wins because of skill and teamwork but loses because of bad refereeing or bad luck. This selective interpretation reinforces confidence but reduces the opportunity for improvement. Cultural influences can affect how self-serving bias is expressed. In individualistic societies, where personal achievement is emphasized, people may be more likely to take personal credit for success. In collectivist societies, where group harmony is valued, individuals may be more willing to share credit and accept responsibility as part of a group. This shows that while self-serving bias is a universal tendency, its expression can vary depending on social and cultural contexts. Reducing self-serving bias requires conscious effort and self-awareness. One effective approach is to reflect honestly on both successes and failures. Instead of immediately accepting the most comfortable explanation, individuals can ask themselves what role they played in the outcome. Seeking feedback from others is also important, as it provides different perspectives and helps identify blind spots. Constructive criticism, although sometimes difficult to accept, can lead to significant personal growth. Another useful strategy is to rely on evidence and facts rather than assumptions. By examining data and considering multiple explanations, individuals can develop a more balanced understanding of events. Keeping a record of decisions and their outcomes can also help identify patterns in thinking and behavior. Over time, this practice encourages more objective judgment and reduces the influence of bias. It is important to note that self-serving bias is not entirely negative. In moderation, it can protect mental health and help individuals cope with challenges. For example, attributing failure to temporary external factors can reduce stress and maintain motivation. The key is to balance this natural tendency with a willingness to accept responsibility and learn from experience. In conclusion, self-serving bias is a natural psychological tendency that shapes how people interpret success and failure. It allows individuals to maintain a positive self-image by taking credit for achievements and avoiding blame for mistakes. However, if left unchecked, it can lead to distorted thinking, poor decisions, and limited personal development. By becoming aware of this bias and actively working to counter it, individuals can achieve a more realistic and balanced understanding of themselves and their experiences. If you found this explanation helpful, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more insightful content on psychology and human behavior.